Welcome, everybody, to a brand new and exciting podcast on gel pens. Yep, you are tuned into the right place. If you're a gel pen fanatic like me, you are going to enjoy this show. Ooh, am I excited to talk about the Pilot G2 number 5 today and the 7. You know, I'm personally the biggest fan of the 5. The 7's okay, but it smears. Man, you could tell I'm just get all crazy when we start talking about gel pens. Now, the coolest thing about gel pens is that you don't have to press it hard because it's gel. It's like a liquid, and it's just flowing out as you're writing. And I just love to write with my gel pen every time I get. Now, some people are, no, it's all about fountain pens. It's all about fountain pens. And I'm like, no, gel. And then, you know, sometimes we get into a heated argument. But what it comes down to is preference, really. So if you're a fountain pen person, just turn off right now. I don't even hear you. Don't even call in. I'm not interested in your opinions. Today, we're talking about gel. I mean, come on, guys. It's 2021. It's all about gel. Why are you still pouring ink in there? You know there's toxins and hazards in there? Just buy the gel, get into the mainstream, get up to date, and get going. So anyway, now that I'm off my soapbox, let's talk about the Pilot G205.
I'm not even sure where to jump in on this one. This is a serious. I'm taking notes over here. I'm like, yes, the gel pen, excellent, fantastic.
You're not passionate about gel pens?
I don't care. No.
Really?
I will pick up a blunt instrument and just scribble with it because that is about how much you'll be able to read anyways.
Well, you know.
If I have a pointy rock, I'm good to go.
You know, I want to speak nice and highly of you, but our handwriting could both use some work.
Yeah, it's illegible. For whatever reason, thankfully I can read my own handwriting.
Well, that's good.
But that's about as far as it goes. My sister has a gift. She can read my handwriting,
because sometimes when I write, I can't read my writing.
You come back later, you're like, what was this?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. And sometimes, you know, working in the hospital for a million years, we use shorthand. And sometimes I'm making up my own shorthand with symbols and things.
Perfect. You don't have to remember that.
And I don't remember what word the symbol
for later.
Was. Yeah, so I go back to it and I go, oh, come on, Aaron, I have no idea what I just wrote there.
But in the moment, you're looking at it and you're like, oh, I know exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Like later when I look at this, I know that's going to mean, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, this, that.
Yeah.
I know exactly who that is and what we're, no. But my handwriting is so terrible, I haven't ever gotten close enough to be passionate about picking a pen. Yeah,
well, pens rule. My wrists aren't the greatest either. And when I do get a cheap old Bic pen or something and I do have to write a lot and I am pressing, it does catch up with me.
So you need the glide.
Oh, yeah. But it can't be like gushing out.
Gushing?
No. Some pens are gushy.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's got to come out in the appropriate amount that doesn't take pressure, that won't smear, that dries instantly.
So should we welcome everybody to our podcast?
I'm kind of digging the pen one. Maybe we should switch.
Well, everybody, welcome to our podcast. We are the Evil Safety Dudes. Not those guys. Don't listen to him. He's a crazy person.
So you don't want to switch topics? You want to stick with safety?
No, I don't know. We could be the regular pen guys.
I honestly think we'll get more listeners if we switch to pens.
I think of all of the topics we could have picked, that's probably the most boring one we could have switched to.
That's why
we'll do 2 podcasts, and then we're like retiring because we have nothing to talk about.
No, I mean we could talk about the history of pens and the different brands. And
I would just keep going. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Evil Safety Dudes. I am AJ Hanscom, joined in the IBC Podcast Fort Studio, Blanket Fortress with Mr. Aaron Iacino. He is an occupational safety and health nurse.
Pen expert.
I've been enjoying that one. Occupational and safety and health pen expert.
Health and safety pen expert.
Pen
and
health
environmental.
And safety.
I'm an environmental pen expert as well.
There you go.
Yeah, I just made up that title.
Environmental pens. Well, I mean, you wanted to go into like ink dangers and yeah.
Well,
there you go.
Safety always bleeds into everything I do.
I like that.
Yeah,
there you go.
It comes in
kind of like ink.
Yeah. Haha, no pun intended, right?
Ho ho ho.
All right, well, so yeah, we are the Evil Safety Dudes. The real podcast is not on pens. It is on all things occupational health and safety, how not to die at work. And AJ, what's our specific podcast episode on today?
Do you know what? I have no idea. We spent so much time talking about pens. I know our guest speaker. Oh, wait, there we go. Hang on. I just refreshed myself. So today we're doing a podcast on the HazCom system, Hazardous Communication.
Yeah, globally harmonized system.
We're focusing on the globally harmonized system that's meshed into
ink and pens is not too far.
I'm sure out there, and we need to go find one, or maybe like one of our 40 listeners is, guys, we're up to like 30 or 40 people regularly now a week. We were at like 3. So this is like a big day for us. We are up there, like a whole handful of people now listen to us.
Hey, as long as we're bragging, we did get notification that we've reached 1,000 downloads. So congratulations.
I should have brought a party popper.
Yeah.
Just one, though.
But let's bring on our guest speaker.
All right.
Super excited. Longtime friend of mine. I'm talking 16 years, 17 years.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Julie Ingoli. And she has been in the health, safety, and environmental profession for, do you know how long, Mr.
And she said over 36 years.
Yeah, super cool. And she's got a PhD.
She's PhD.
I think we're in good hands today. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
Oh, good. She's awake. I was worried.
I'm also a gel pen user.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm just leaving. I'm going to just step out for the next hour and listen to you two people talk about gel pens.
Oh, yeah. They're the only pens to write with. So.
People do get passionate about pens.
The only time I've ever gotten passionate about a writing utensil was back when I was still in middle school and high school. I would only use zebra mechanical pencils because I pushed too hard when I would write. Mm-hmm. And they had that little reinforced sleeve so that your tip on your mechanical pencil wouldn't break.
See, we totally could do a podcast on writing.
I was the
utensils.
only one I would use. Other than that, though, everything else I would use, I would just snap the tips off. I was always so mad at those things. But, I loved them. But that was the only time I've ever been passionate about a writing utensil.
All right, so, Julie, today you're on the podcast with us talking about the globally harmonized system, hazardous communication, chemical safety, things like that. So, hazardous communication, first of all, I think it's just a bad name.
We've made fun of it before.
Yeah, I mean, when I say I'm going to teach hazardous communication, nobody's thinking chemical safety.
Right.
HazCom, hazardous communication.
They're not thinking chemical safety.
Do you have any inclination why they even named chemical safety hazardous communication?
I think because it's all about safety, right? And a lot of companies they like to say that, safety is everyone's responsibility.
Okay.
But if you don't communicate to your employees what potentially bad things they could be working with, they have no way to prepare themselves or protect themselves.
I'm with you in that direction. But see, the beef Aaron and I have is that the word hazardous communication is so broad. Why did they pick that for chemicals? Couldn't they have narrowed it down? Could have said chemical communication or I don't know, ChemCom. I'm on board for ChemCom.
Let's start a petition. I think maybe in 10 years we could change the name.
Are you going to help me get ChemCom turned into a thing?
Sure. But I think Julie had it right on point that it's to communicate the hazards.
We keep inviting all these really intelligent people to our podcast, and when we ask them to be goofy, they just continue to be very intelligent. And I feel like that's my fault.
Well, we're the goof. We have to be goofy. For everybody.
Right.
Yeah, we're the goofballs, the evil safety dudes. So hazardous communication is about chemical safety. Now, what was it? 2013 is when they got in line, our Osha, with the United Nations and switched over to the globally harmonized systems. That sound about right, Julie?
Yes, I believe it was. Yes, I think it was 2014, but yeah.
Okay, somewhere in there, yeah. Now, I am a bad safety guy. I haven't done any research, but I have heard rumors that they're thinking about doing some more changes to the standard coming up, but I haven't really read what those proposed changes are.
Well, I think that you are probably ahead of me because I have not heard of the changes that are coming forward.
Changes are good, but I still know for a fact, as a safety consultant being out there, that not everybody's up on the 2013 and 14 changes.
Yeah, man.
This is true.
Pretty normal.
But I think it's because, we had until 2016 to change over.
Right.
And I still see a lot of safety data sheets and things that come through that haven't been changed or they're old. So I know at my job last year, we did a concerted effort to try to go through all the FCSs and make sure we had updated ones.
I was working with a
that
contractor.
met the global standards. So I think it's getting out. The word is getting out there, but a lot of ones that I found that were not compliant were international ones. So that was something that we had to address.
I see.
So, with the safety data sheets changing over, I thought that was a good change, standardizing them, making them 16 sections, and making all of the sections be the same thing. That was my beef with the MSDSs was if I'm looking for first aid, it could be section 4 in one, section 8 in another, 16 in another, and it was always hard to find stuff fast. So I do like to standardize.
I'm sorry. You also didn't know that what some of the testing standards were, like how did this one industry test their chemicals versus someone else's, and now there's a standardized testing system to develop, toxicity characteristics and everything. So you know that you're getting apples when you're looking at apples instead of combination of different things. So makes sense, right?
It does.
That's getting deeper than I ever got into that, though. I didn't ever know that the new sheets didn't tell you that and the old ones didn't.
So they didn't. It was kind of like how Julie said it. They just didn't tell you that it wasn't standardized. So like if you had your chemical done on a flammability test, and then they would, mark how flammable it was, maybe you would have it shopped out and see if you could find a testing lab that would give you a lower score.
Okay. So
that you could come in looking less dangerous. But now it's like everybody has to test to the same grade.
Which makes sense. I mean.
Well, yeah. You would think that they would have been doing that in the first place.
So let's pick your brain. If a company was at like ground zero with their chemical safety program and they wanted just to get started on the road to compliance, where would be a good area that they could start with?
I think that they would want to get a safety data sheet for every chemical that they use.
Oh yeah.
And let their employees know that, hey, we have these, and you have a right to look at them or request them, and maybe specifically break down the general areas of the shop. Okay, we use these chemicals in this area, and have the supervisor go over them with their employees and say, these are the types of dangers that may be associated with it, and this is the type of safety equipment that you should be using when you're working with this chemical.
Definitely. I think that's super important to start off by doing like that chemical list inventory, just getting all the safety data sheets. Mm-hmm. That's a daunting task. We have one client that has, I can't remember, 6 or 7 binders. Like the first binder is like A through D.
Oh, it's 12 binders.
It's insane. They have over 1,000 chemicals in the plant. And man, I mean, imagine starting from scratch and just having to do that.
There are some electronic services or things that you can utilize. For me, if you hand me a binder with 1,000 sheets of paper, I'm just going to be lost, or it's just going to be daunting. But if I could pull it up electronically or search for it on a system, that makes it a lot easier for me to find what it is that I need to see.
Yeah, for sure. I really like electronic storage of safety data sheets. Mm-hmm. The issue that was always brought up was, it has to be accessible to all employees. So how do you make it electronically be accessible to all employees? Have you run into that, and what are some of the solutions you've seen out there?
Well, you could have a terminals in a general area that's accessible to all employees, and have it on that particular computer, have just SDSs that are available. Or you can have your SDSs like we do here. We have it on our intranet site, and any employee can access the SDSs by going to that intranet site and pulling them up.
That sounds awesome.
Nice.
AJ, what have you seen in the construction industry from companies that do it electronically?
So I've seen a really great method and then the terrible methods. But at least these were 2 companies that were actually doing it. The great method was a company was paying for that service. I cannot remember the name of the app.
MSDS Online?
I think that's the one. And I think they tried to change their website name, but I think it's still MSDS Online.
Yeah.
But you could literally just pull up the app on your phone, and you'd start typing in the name of the chemical, and it will start with the list of, if you got 500 chemicals, the list has 500. And then as you type, It just narrows, and then you can just click real quick before you even finish whichever one you want. And then as a backup, they did the right thing. They printed off all of them. Because OSHA says, what if the employee's phone is dead, or what if there's no network service, or whatever. You must have it, so whatever. Right. So they've got the giant binder on the job site with all the sheets. That was the guys doing it right. And then I had another company that just has all the sheets. So it's like, they're there. If they wanted to look them up, they can. Right. But, I'm always encouraging people when I'm telling, and when we work with a lot of employees on construction sites in general, they don't have that. Their company hasn't gone that far ahead, and they're not linked up with us to start putting that program together. And they're like, well, how can I do this? And I'm just teaching the guy how to Google an SDS sheet. Right. You just type in the name, the actual chem list number, and then SDS, and boom, there it is for free. So we've done all of them.
I've never heard of a client get cited for having them electronically until last week. I was in that class, and one of the people in the class was saying they got cited because they did not have a plan for access if there was a power outage or something.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, fine. So all of a sudden in the storm, what's the chances of you
powers out
getting a new chemical that you have to read the safety data sheet for? Right. Like, how long does power go out?
Right.
Not long. I just think that's kind of over the top. I could see if it's down there in a hurricane, you got power out for 3 weeks. That'd be a problem. But if your power's out for 30 minutes, who cares?
And you're in the storm shelter. Well, do you remember, it was just a couple months ago.
If you have if you have an event or something at your company, say you had a major explosion and fire, and you had to evacuate the area, and you can't get to your binders, or your computer system is down, how do you pull up that system, or how do you pull up what you need to do so that the first responders know what they're working with and what they need to go through, or how they need to respond. But in some cases, if you have enough of the chemicals on site, you have, with your Tier 2 reports, have given a listing to your local fire department and local hospitals of, look, these are the worst case chemicals that we have on site in quantities, and this is generally where they're located, right? So they know coming in.
I see Julie's argument as being better than OSHA's argument.
I have been out and about where I always have my smartphone with me, and I have had to just Google so that I could get the information quickly.
Imagine being the employee who needs that critical information, right? In the OSHA scenario, they're like, oh, you got to have hard copy so that if there's a power outage, an employee can look it up. Well, in a power outage, like Aaron stated, they're not going to be running to it. But if we look at it in Julie's scenario where, it's an emergency evacuation, there's an actual emergency.
Right.
And in that situation, nobody's thinking, before I flee, I should run back into the building, grab that SDS binder. Right. Because if you have it electronically and you're outside, you've probably got 40-plus cell phones right there. You could, hey, you, and you, pull up the SDS for this one. You, and you, pull up this one. We got firefighters on the way. We want to tell them the SDS information for these chemicals. Boom. So if we have it electronically, I think it's still way better. I don't know why OSHA's big push is for power outages. I think it's silly.
Julie, you mentioned Tier 2 reports. Now, we have a lot of safety professionals that listen that don't have to do those, don't even know what they are. Can you give us a super simple synopsis of Tier 2 reporting?
Sure. So there's a list of what's called hazardous materials, which can be confusing as well. But basically, anything that you have an SDS for is considered to be a hazardous chemical or hazardous material. And then from that list, there's a list of quantities of those chemicals that you can have on site. And let's say normal chemicals, you can have as much as 10,000 gallons or pounds of the chemical on site at any one time during the year. If it's a really dangerous chemical, they ratchet down from there how much you can have. So if you have over the threshold of that chemical on site at any one time, you have to do a report every year, and it's called a Tier 2 report. And along with that report, it's submitted to your LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Commission, your local fire department and local hospital, and it's designed to help, be prepared in the unlikely or, the event of an incident should come, that the hospital staff is aware of what's just planned. The first responders know what's there. They know what kind of injuries, if anything, that they'll be, facing when people start coming in and things like that.
That's pretty.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, for sure, and it's pretty smart. You could see why in a disaster you'd want all those people to know all that information. And I could just imagine the scenarios years ago before this was implemented, of a explosion, a tornado, a chemical spill, and first responders died because they didn't know what they were getting into. And then somebody said, you know what, we got to make these people fill out a report. And we got to make sure they give it to these people so this doesn't happen again. I could see kind of how that idea would have come into place, being birthed out of a catastrophe probably.
Well, a lot of it was birthed out of, say, the Bhopal incident in India in, was it early 80s or late 70s, where the chemical fertilizer plant blew up, and they didn't know that the quantities were there. And then because of that made the number of people that died in that and were injured made national, international news. Then the conversations came up as to whether or not can that happen here in the United States, and what kind of protections can we do to prevent that. I think also more recently there was an oil train in Canada that ran away and crashed into a town and obliterated most of the town. Same type of conversations come up as to what can we do to prevent this from happening. In West Virginia, there was a river that became contaminated, and the people in the area had no drinking water for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that.
Jeez.
So all these things, they come up, people start asking, your regulators or your congressman, well, what are you doing to protect us from this happening? And so we have these things like right to know, we have tier 2 regulations, we have goal of harmonization, so that, people know what they're working with, what employees know what they're working with, communities know what they're working with, and all of that.
I mean, it makes sense.
So the better prepared we are, for any type of incident, the better.
Speaking of globally harmonized system, I'd like to take time out to talk trash about pictograms.
Not a fan anymore, huh? I was under the impression you liked pictograms.
I like the idea that we could have a symbol that communicates a hazard. So even if I don't understand the language of the label, I could see that little flame and go, "Oh, flammable!" Like, right. And I like most of them, but I just wish they would have probably got a broader consensus of people, like more testing to go. All right, can the average person ascertain what this symbol means?
Oh, sure. Because
we have been teaching these since, they came out. And I could teach the same group the next year. I taught them 1 year. Right. I go to the next year, and they don't know what it means.
They're the same ones, and they're like,
Like everybody guesses flammable, right?
Right.
But the exclamation point?
The irritants?
Well, because you're an evil safety dude. But nobody remembers that unless you're a safety person.
True, yeah.
And the little Pac-Man who exploded. I mean, that's explosive.
Pac-Man who
it's this
the little sphere that's flying apart.
Yeah. And then the health hazard one, it's like a guy with his chest disintegrating.
Right.
And everybody guesses something different. It means health hazard, but that's a very specific health hazard. It's like your lungs and heart disintegrating.
Inhalation, yeah.
And then the one that's supposed to be a compressed gas cylinder.
Oh, the wine bottle.
I've heard wine bottle. Because we play a game, Julie, when we'll pull up the slide of the picture, and we'll have the class guess what hazard it's trying to portray. Mm-hmm. And when that one comes up, we hear wine bottle, cricket paddle.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, dough roller.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the neck on the bottle is very long.
Yeah. I've heard disciplinary
weird.
Paddle, and I was like, all right,
baby bottle.
We're not asking you questions anymore.
Yeah. It looks. I mean, you and I look at it and we know what it is, but
It definitely doesn't look like a compressed gas cylinder.
Maybe in the other countries they have really long.
They have like
caps.
a foot long, cylinder head. Like,
I don't know, but okay, podcasts are a chance to get on a soapbox, so that I could. Get
I think the
off
oxidizer one is interesting. It's an O with flames.
I like that one because it gives me a chance to talk about Dragon Ball Z.
There you go.
But that's about it.
That's different
because it looks like Goku.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's a Japanese animated cartoon. And
I know what Dragon Ball Z is, but
okay.
I was saying, how do you get off
he's just saying it looks like one of their little energy blasts with the little flame and the circle.
No. It looks like their hairdo when they go Super Saiyan.
Oh my gosh, you think it just looks like hair?
100%.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, it's totally
Well,
Goku's
we also know
hairdo.
what the skull and crossbones means, right?
Yes, like that one's obvious, and then the
well, I don't know.
corrosive one's obvious.
What about the dead fish?
Environmental toxicity. Some people guess dangerous to the environment.
I think that one's okay because there's also a dead tree, and like you get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're kind of like a.
Yeah.
See now the skull and crossbones.
I always thought that they could do a better drawing of a fish. So.
A better fish.
Yeah.
Whenever we get to the skull and crossbones, though, everybody looks at it and goes poisonous.
So maybe I will spend the next 10 years of my life
redrawing,
getting them to change that, and then I'll have one contribution to the safety world in my career.
There's going to be one new pictogram.
I got him to draw the fish better.
No, just think of all the people that you have trained and made them safer because they sat through your classes,
And then I could retire. I made my mark on safety.
I drew a fish.
I made this picture better.
Well, I mean, off the top of your head, what else could we use for irritant, though? Like, really? They had to slap something on there. And they were like, we're going to have irritants.
I mean, that's a fair question.
Have somebody, plugging their nose because they're irritated?
Or I would be plugging my ears more than my nose.
You're irritated by sound, so you're like... Or rubbing your eyes. Irritated?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good
question.
But
then they might think you're crying, right? Well, I guess the same thing.
Maybe I am crying because of how terrible this pictogram is.
What about skin irritants,
Yeah, if you could have a picture of psoriasis or something on all those commercials.
Some dude who's tweaking and scratching himself.
All those drug commercials, they show the
itchy skin,
the really inflamed skin, and then they show it better with their drug. Maybe we could show.
But how are you going to get that on a label?
Exactly.
I know.
Around the world, that's universal.
Yeah, I mean it's fair. It's a tough one. How I teach it is I say, this is an exclamation point, which is really an I upside down, and I stands for irritant.
Right.
That's how I try to give them the little tip to remember it.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that need to remember it. They're the ones that are going to see that label and go, oh, that's an irritant. But all right. So globally harmonized system, hazardous communication. We talked about doing a chemical list inventory, getting safety data sheets, getting them accessible, telling people where they're at. I got one for you, Julie, because this is one of the biggest breakdowns that I see. A company does all that, but the employees will never read them.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways we can get that information into them?
So, we call them toolbox talks, right? And you try to take a subject like a week or even sometimes a day. If we have, when we have our shutdowns, we have 2 shutdowns a year, summer and winter, and maybe there's certain things that are coming on site that we need them to really be aware of. So you take your little toolbox talk time and try to talk about a chemical that they're using each day, a different one.
I am stealing this.
I like that.
I straight up stealing it. I got a group of mine that they need to do a toolbox talk at a job site every week, and they always want different ones.
Right.
I'm going to start doing that for a bunch of them.
I really
got a huge
like that.
pack of SDS sheets. I'm going to go back there. I'm going to condense them into a 5-minute talk. Be like, all right, this is the chemical. This is the name. These are our main hazards. This is the PPE you got to wear. These are your conditions to use it in. Here's a little first aid about it. Oh, man. Julie, stealing it. Thank you.
Yeah, super good idea.
I've got one for you, too.
Okay.
Get a bottle of for labeling, the importance of labeling.
Mm-hmm.
Get a bottle of blue liquid, like a Gatorade bottle, and, you can set it on the table there and say, well, this could be Gatorade or it could be Windex.
Right.
Who wants to taste it to make sure? Or, just trying to play off the importance of that. Or this is tea, but it could also be gasoline, which, how do you know the difference? It's the bottle that you're familiar with, but you don't know that.
Should we just trust it enough to throw it in the trash?
Maybe Julie poured Windex in there today or something like that.
Julie saw gasoline drip and put this bottle underneath it and saved everybody from gasoline all over the ground. And now we have a container of gasoline.
I had a safety teacher, do that at the Omaha National Safety Council.
He bottled gasoline?
He had looked like an antifreeze, clear jug of antifreeze on the table the whole time with no label, blue, the whole time while he's teaching. And then at the end of class, he opens it and takes a drink and then acted like, because it really was Kool-Aid, but then he acted like it was
something like lethal.
It was pretty funny.
You want to hear a true story from my high school I've never, ever told you before?
Okay.
This is 100% true story.
I won't tell anybody.
I worked with this kid at Little Caesars for a while, and then later my chemistry teacher, Mrs. Reed, she came back later, and she was like, you worked with that guy? I was like, yeah. She was like, let me tell you a story about this guy from chemistry class. One day in chemistry class, we used to have to do our final exam, I think, for AP Chem was a what was it called? I can't remember. We had to break apart a substance. It had like 26 different chemical or physical ingredients in it, and then we had to break it apart and weigh them all and like say what each one was. Well, during this whole process, and there's tons of different chemicals out, in class, there was a beaker of water on the table, and this kid that became slightly infamous after that had picked it up and splashed it on his friend's face. But it was actually a very, very powerful acid.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it just looked clear, and he just picked up this unlabeled chemical and threw it all over another student who ended up getting, like, second-degree burns all over
that's terrible.
All over his face. Like, in his mouth, up his nose. Yeah, it was all bad stuff.
Man, and if it was labeled with the corrosive sign, he probably wouldn't have done it.
He probably wouldn't have picked up because he thought it was water. He was like, ha-ha. It was not water.
All right, let's nerd out for a moment. Let's talk about our favorite sections of the safety data sheet. I'll go first. I love Section 9, chemistry. I love knowing the specific gravity and the vapor density and just, all of the vapor pressure and its pH. Actually, no, my favorite is probably Section 3, the ingredient list. I like to know how much of what is in it. Those are probably my favorite ones.
I think you're already showing a little more nerdiness than me or Julie. I'm going to come right out and say I don't think I've ever picked a favorite section.
You don't have a favorite section of the safety data sheets?
I do have, I guess, a favorite part I like to teach on only because the videos are the best.
Okay.
And that is your well, it's not. I thought it was Section 9. It might be Section 10. But things not to mix the chemical with.
Oh, yeah. Reactivity and stability is Section 10.
Those videos are the best.
How about you, Julie? Do you have a favorite section of a safety data sheet?
So when I get chemicals on site, I have to approve them before they come in to be used here. Mm-hmm. But I also am thinking about what I'm going to have to do if we have some left over to get rid of. So, is it going to be hazardous waste, or how am I going to get rid of it? So I have two areas that I look at generally. One I might start with, I believe it's section. It's the one on the transportation. Is that
13 or 14?
Yeah.
14?
No,
I think it's 14.
DOT transportation.
Yeah, 14 is transpo, 13 is disposal.
Yeah, 15
I'll
is
start there, because if there is a UN number there, then that might be a good indication that I'll be disposing of it as a hazardous waste. And then I also look at the chemistry section to see what the pH is and to see whether or not it's corrosive or not. And what the ignition, to see whether or not it's flammable.
Oh, there you go.
The word is skipped my head right now.
Like flash
but I
point
look
or
at those
something.
two first before I go back, and then I'll go back from there and look at other things.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's do pop quiz time. Let's see if we can get through all 16 sections. Section 1, what is that? Anybody know?
Identification.
Okay, 2.
Okay, so
AJ,
I'm gotta in my head put it in order.
2 is hazard.
2 is your hazards.
3 is ingredients.
3 is your ingredients.
4
is first aid.
First aid.
We always know first aid.
5
flammable.
Okay. Which the point I like to point out that is suitable extinguishing media.
Yeah.
What would actually put this out if it caught on fire?
How I remember is 5 fire safety.
5 fire. Okay.
Yeah, 5 fire. Okay. That's how I remember is 5 is fire safety.
6 accidental release.
6 is accidental release.
7 handling storage. 8 PPE. 9 chemistry. 10 reactivity and stability. 11 toxicology. That's what Julie was talking about earlier, because it does say like lethal dose 50, lethal concentration. You know, when you look that stuff up, that's pretty crazy. Like how many out of, I forget what it was, but it's like how many out of 100 rats died when they're exposed to this amount? Like
right, and they do their LD50s.
Yeah, that's all in there. 12
environmental release.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, how to handle a spill. What do you do if you spilled it? You know.
Oh, 12 is spill release, then 13 must be environmental toxicity, where it talks about, like, if this is released into the environment, it will damage the crustacean in this area.
Yeah, and that's fun to look up because it's things you've never heard about.
Right.
A fish you've never heard about, a type of algae you've never heard about.
Weird specific names of deer.
14, DOT we said. 15 is
governmental regulations.
And then 16 is miscellaneous. All right, well, hey, that was pretty good.
Not bad.
All right, so we were talking about how to get the information in the safety data sheet communicated to the employees. All right, now let's talk about training specifically. Let's say a safety data sheet said something like must wear this PPE. All right, so now we can't just rely on employees to go and get that and put it on. You know, we got to train them on the
You mean
PPE.
we can't trust them to actually wear the appropriate PPE while they handle a chemical?
Do you remember the story of the 8 maintenance guys who melted latex gloves to their hand?
I do remember that story.
Well, you can't just say you have to wear gloves, right?
Yeah.
You have to know which gloves to use.
Yeah, they didn't read the safety data sheet. The safety data sheet said never, ever, ever wear latex gloves while working with this product. This product eats latex. It melts latex. And they all put on latex gloves and tested out this solvent, and they all melted. They seared. They glued the latex gloves to their hands.
Ew.
And when they took the glove off, their skin was coming with it.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, training is a big part of it. I can't remember if this stuff's in the top 10. HazCom's usually in the top 10 violations.
Usually.
Yeah, but I can't remember what specific part about HazCom is in the top 10. But training is so important. Training the folks on the right PPE to wear, and you know, we always see PPE just thrown and laying about and not kept nice.
Is it clean? Is it kept, you know?
Yeah.
Or
right.
even this time of COVID, even before, but if you're using respirators, do you clean your respirators? Are they
right.
in between use, or are you sharing, you know, stuff and
yeah, for sure.
things like that?
Because a lot of the chem rooms, it's, you know, you go, there's a few sizes of boots, there's a few aprons, you know, gloves, like everybody else has worn that same stuff. You know, so yeah, I think cleaning the PPE is really a big part of that. All right.
And do you have the correct sizes? Because I have a very large hand, and nothing is more irritating than to try to put on some gloves that are never going to fit. And if you put holes in them, then they're no good to you, right?
Yep, that is super annoying. As a male as a nurse in the hospital, they never got large gloves. It was always small and medium, and it was always fun watching me put on gloves.
In my construction groups, it's the exact opposite problem.
Okay.
They only buy extra large, and if you're a guy with like medium-sized gloves, you just walk around looking like a little kid all day.
Yeah, that's
because they're not buying medium gloves.
And that's dangerous all on its own.
Oh yeah, whole new problems.
Yeah, to have total loose stuff there. So, all right. So, talking about hazardous communication with Julie Ingoli. Now,
I had some questions for Julie.
Go for it.
So container labeling is a huge one that I have a huge problem with and a big passion about, because we talked about that a little bit ago. We touched on it, but we didn't get to like dive into it.
I think you are nerding out now.
A little bit.
If you genuinely have a passion for labels.
Well, okay, so here was...
That's a nerd moment, safety nerd moment.
Here was... yeah, I'll take that. But... my big one, though, has been cleaning, everything for cleaning. I was just this last week helping out a big manufacturer here locally, and we're doing an SDS project with them. And I was I had surprised their safety staff as we walked around. We found chemicals that were in containers that were not supposed to be in those containers. They had the wrong label, so they were labeled, but it was supposed to be like a blue liquid in there, and it was like a clear liquid. There was another one that's supposed to have a green liquid, had a blue liquid in it. Like, there's all sorts of issues. Julie, what kind of a thing, I don't know, in the general industry, as a safety person, do you suggest people do to make sure those types of things don't happen?
So one of the things I do is we specify the color of the container, that if you're going to put it into something different, like if it comes in as a bulk chemical and you need to put it into a smaller container, we have specific colors. So all of this acid is going to be in a red spray bottle or in a red bottle, nothing else, but with the proper labels. And this one has to be in a yellow container. So not only are they labeled, but they're also color coordinated. And also, once it's used, you can refill, but if there's a question, you get rid of it and get a new one to make sure that there's no cross-contamination or anything like that.
Or you don't want to actually be combining different chemicals in the spray bottle.
Right, because you never know what's going to happen, right? You don't know that you can do that, right?
Well, these guys were thinking...
I had a group here that used a container as a metal container to spray something, and the material that they put in it actually ate the inside of the spray bottle out. And then they came to me saying, there's something wrong with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I was like,
oh, that's
it's a lot
scary.
more corrosive than we thought it was. Yeah.
Wow. That's where that Section 10 comes in, right? Yeah. That stability and reactivity. And then we've talked before on the show, there's many different real-life scenarios of people that have mixed the wrong chemicals together. You were talking about the Buffalo Wild Wings incident.
That's a sad case.
Can you refresh us on that?
Oh, yeah, just a quick rundown. He put two cleaners together, accidentally made a little bit of a chlorine gas cloud.
It's like a manager, right?
Yeah, just
cleaning the floors.
Yep, just mopping. And went to squeegee it out as that cloud was being formed, and he stood in it too long, and it actually killed him.
And I heard he made some employees and patrons sick.
11 people got hospitalized.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I heard of it locally, a janitor here. They put some bleach in a toilet, and they said, it was a bad toilet. It was, it's one of those where you walk in and you go, people are terrible, So he walks in, and he's like, oh, my goodness. So he glug, puts some bleach in, leaves, lets it work for a while, comes back, it's still terrible. So he goes, what else is in my cart that could help this? So he just grabs some other disinfectant or whatever, not really thinking about chemical reactivity.
Right.
And, acid based together, like I think it was bleach and ammonia. And puts that ammonia, and then boom, hydrogen gas. He's in a stall.
Yep.
So that cloud hits him, and people have died doing that exact same thing.
Oh, sure.
He did not, though, because when he hit the ground, he was able to army crawl out of the bathroom. And
he kind of fell out of the cloud.
Yeah.
Oh, whoosh, jeez.
Yeah, it's a real deal.
Oh yeah, people combine chemicals all the time, whether they know what they are or even if they don't know what they are. They're just like, you know what? This is a good cleaner. This is a good cleaner. Let's make it a great cleaner.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you actually even gain a respect for the danger of chemicals. I mean, even though you're trained about it and you're taught about it, until you see or you hear of some accident.
Yeah.
So that's why in the training, I always try to talk about some things that have happened, because that sometimes will register with you more than anything else. Like when we were in high school and we took driver's education, at the end of that, they always showed us the blood films. And that stuck with me more than anything else.
Right, for sure.
I don't want to end up like that. The same thing goes for chemical safety as well.
Exactly. Finding a way to make it real.
We have some videos embedded in our PowerPoint, and one of them was these kids. And do you remember the two chemicals they mixed?
Yeah, it's a chlorine bleach bomb.
Okay.
So they have chlorine powder from a swimming pool.
Okay.
And then they pour alcohol on top of it.
Okay.
Like rubbing alcohol.
And I just remember he puts the caps on it, and then his friend's off camera going, shake it really good, man. And then the guy starts shaking it by his head.
Yeah.
And then, boom, it just blows
It just
up.
goes.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And I always wanted to know the end result of that one. Like, did he have chemical burns on his face?
Oh, I think he lost some fingers.
Did he lose his eyes? Was it, well, Was it a good explosion or just vapor pressure busted the bottle and it sounded loud, or like what was the?
We may never know.
We may never know. We should. If
But it's a
anybody
scary
knows
video.
those kids that put that video out on YouTube about 10 years ago.
Oh, that video actually came out before YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's an old Flash video.
Yeah. And
But
then,
even so, there's also using things the way for what they were originally intended for, but not using it necessarily properly, like lighter fluid for your barbecue.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Charcoal lighter. And you start your barbecue, and although the flame's not what I want it to be, so then you're going to squirt more on top of a flame. Well, what could go wrong with that?
right.
Just making sure that you're using it the way it was intended to be used.
Yeah, I think with some of the older generation of construction workers anyway, one of the things I'm trying to get them all to quit doing is to stop washing your hands with gasoline.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's, my dad did that to me, helping him work on the car. Hands are all greasy. Son, bring your hands over here. Let me show you a trick.
Oh, man.
Starts pouring gas on my hands, and I'm rubbing them together, and the oil's coming off, and I'm going, wow, Dad, you're smart. And then I become an adult, and I go, wow, I just got benzene poisoning.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's still common practice.
Or they do that, and then they go light a cigarette, right?
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah. Well, the parts cleaner in, all the mechanics' garages. You're getting off for the day, you're greased up to your elbows. You go over to the parts cleaner, and you just scrub yourself with all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty normal.
Yeah. Yeah,
And you defat your skin.
Yeah. And as far as, safety goes, in our hierarchy of controls, we have substitution, substitution, elimination, you go engineering, work practice controls, PPE. I don't know if you guys do, but I have a hard time getting my clients to substitute less harmful chemical. Have you ever run into that, Julie?
Well, yes, because, they say, what, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I like this chemical because it works great. Why should I change to something else? And I'm not sure that it's going to work as well. So you have to be able to demonstrate that it is, and something that you really have to keep pushing as to why, and trying to show the reasoning for not, for making the change, whether it's environmental or, safety-wise or whatever, just to show an equivalent is just as good. It's hard to push something that somebody really likes to get rid of it. They don't want to do that.
People don't like change.
Yeah, they don't like change. You may have a good supplier, it may be cheaper. Sometimes it just doesn't, there is no substitution.
Right.
That works, I was working with some painters, and they had MEK, methyl ethyl ketone. And I'm like, whoa, I only seen that in my PowerPoint.
The ketones, isn't that like that new band?
Yeah,
popular?
the ketone.
The ketones.
I mean, we call it methyl ethyl kill you quick. I mean,
Right.
that stuff is so bad. Flammable, health hazards galore. It's super bad.
Makes you super dizzy, drowsy.
And I'm just like, man, this is the stuff they warn us about. Like, you're using this all the time. Your
Daily
guys
basis.
are using this. Oh, yeah.
On the regular.
We got to clean out our paint guns and our paint lines. And I was like, can we substitute this chemical for something less hazardous? And maybe they have made something, but at that time they're like, nope, we have honestly tried it. And they said they started listing all these different newer substitutions, and they're like, none of them actually works like this one.
Yeesh.
And it's
That stuff is gnarly.
It's like, oh man, well, there's $1 million idea, AJ.
Make a new paint cleaner.
Yeah,
That's
for
not
paint
gonna
guns,
kill
industrial
people.
paint lines that will not blow you up and kill you.
So, Julie, I got a question for you. Coming up here, I've read a little bit ahead down the pipeline, and it looks like OSHA's revamping and putting out a new update to GHS. So when they originally announced GHS and said they wanted this globally harmonized system, they said it was to help better communicate health hazards to employees. And now they're revamping it because they said it did not do a good enough job. And there will be the GHS 2.0 update coming out, or whatever they decide to call it. And they're thinking that it is going to better communicate health hazards to employees. And that's all it said. Aaron and I have looked at it. We were like racking our brains. And I would just want to ask you your opinion. What do you think, based on just that, because that's all they've really said, what do you think OSHA might be adding to the new GHS update to better communicate health hazards of chemicals to employees?
Well, maybe they're making changes to some of the pictograms.
Oh,
because maybe
there you go.
maybe not everybody understands it. I mean,
I would be super
to
on board with
me,
that.
the whole thing about the pictograms was that anybody can look at it because you can run into areas where people can't read, right?
Sure.
But they still need to know the danger of what they're working with.
I like that.
So maybe they've come up with better pictograms or something.
Or maybe they've just added more to make it more clear in certain areas.
Yeah, to make it more clear.
I could see that.
I could see them beefing up training requirements.
Yeah, I can always see them beefing up training and policy requirements.
Yeah.
They'd be like, here are your new legal requirements.
Yep. For training. It must be done at this time and this way and this. You know, like forklift training standards are very specific.
Yep.
But
step by
nothing
step.
else is that specific.
All right.
Maybe saying you have to do them every year, right?
Oh, yeah, making it annual.
Training for GHS every year instead of what, initially this is it. This is how you read a SES and this is how you're supposed to apply it, Making sure that over and over and over again.
Yeah, you're only ever required to basically get a talking to about each chemical once. So maybe making it an annual or I don't know, even just some sort of a refresher or something, making the training requirements more frequent.
Right.
I could see
but
that.
If you don't keep it before people, then they don't remember it, and they don't have as great of respect for what they're working with. They get more familiar with it, and it's like, oh yeah, it's not a problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as far as training goes and hitting that point home, showing those videos we talked about, do you remember that video with the sodium hypofluorite where the guy inhales that gas and it makes his voice low? Do you remember that, AJ?
Oh, yeah. That's
I think it's sodium hypofluorite.
It's got a crazy name, yeah, if I could just remember it. Well, anyways.
But, in another, time, I would have a really cool, lab classroom.
Yeah.
And be able to, do more, live, training to show people, the power of chemicals to make them respect them,
Okay.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool.
We were at this science thing one time with the kids. And
sodium hexafluoride.
That sounds right. The guy was doing all this nitrogen stuff. He was, dipping a rubber ball in it and then throwing it and shattering it and,
oh, yeah.
All that kind of cool stuff, It'd be, kind of cool to, back in the day around here with all the meatpacking plants, in safety training in this area, they used to take dollar bills and put them in anhydrous ammonia in the class, and you get to take that home.
Oh.
Because the dollar bill would shrink.
Oh.
It'd become like
super
mini Monopoly money size.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I know some of these old timers that still have that.
So in my chemistry class at Iowa State, I had Dr. Greenbow. He's a really cool dude.
Okay.
He had 3 balloons in his class sitting on his desk.
Okay.
And he had this little torch on the end of a stick. And he was like, today, we're going over different types of chemical reactions to fire. And he's like, we always say things like flammable or combustible. He's like, but today I'm really going to demonstrate the differences in those. And so he's like, this balloon is non-reactive. And so he's like burning the balloon. Nothing happens. And then it takes forever. And then the balloon finally just pops. It's done. He was like, this balloon is very flammable.
Okay.
And so he lights it, and then the balloon almost instantly catches fire. Huge fireball. Cool. Not loud, but giant fireball.
Nice.
And he's like, this balloon is explosive.
What?
And he pulls a little flame underneath it for a second. It's holding it for a little bit, and then boom, when the balloon goes off. It was just I got punched in the chest.
Wow.
And it was this huge 400-person lecture hall.
Cool.
All the chalkboards suddenly looked dusty. Everything looked like it just got shook. And that sat with me. I was like, holy crap. Whoa, that was that's explosive. That's flammable. Got it. I'm on board.
Yeah. I think we got cool ways to communicate, mentally, if you fall and you're not wearing your harness, you will splat. And everyone's like, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. But
I don't know if we got to do some more Batman or Hollywood, show Two-Face and the Joker, RoboCop.
Get really into it. Whoa. We're jumping.
Chemicals will melt your body,
Okay, I see where you're going.
Just to really hit home the danger.
At first, I wasn't on board. I was like, "Where's he? Why RoboCop?" But then, okay, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
Julie was
chemical.
talking about the car videos with the crashes and how that hits you.
Right.
But if maybe we just need some better videos on melted.
Or sometimes they have.
Bones.
Is there some videos they have that are actually from workers who have been injured doing something and they're willing to talk about it? I don't know if it's through the Chemical Safety Board or something like that.
Yeah, they're good.
Things like that it leaves a lasting impression, that, hey, this can really happen to you, because you never think that it's going to be you,
right?
And it only takes one time, right?
We like these a lot. Julie, do you have any, and you don't have to use any names or company or anything like that, but do you have any horror stories that you were maybe present to, or at least firsthand account of a chemical horror story?
I have ones like where lab workers, just went to wipe their face and they didn't think about it. Place that I worked, the material that we worked with was a skin irritant, and an employee had some steaming of his safety glasses, and so he just, cracked his safety glasses and wiped his face, didn't think anything of it. He went home, and then he woke up the next day and he had like contact dermatitis all down the side of his face.
Terrible.
So you just don't think about it. Or I had a situation where someone got something in their eye and he thought he was reaching for one of those flush bottles, and he got something else. It was not a flush bottle. He squirted the chemical directly into his eye. Stuff like that. And when you look at it in retrospect, the bottles are similar. They were located in sort of the same area.
Oh no.
And so he was, you just have to really think about a situation.
Yeah.
All aspects.
That's exactly what people are going to be looking for. If I got some in my eyes and I know that bottle's about over here, it's about this big.
You're already flustered.
Yeah. Well,
you're already not seeing
I can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, you just have to, you think that you're covered, but you have to really consider all situations.
Yeah.
Right? And just be really careful. So there's a lot of horror stories out there, and you don't think about it until you actually see something or something occurs. You don't think about something going wrong. You think you have everything covered until something does go wrong, right? So things like that,
Well, we're getting to the close of our show, and before we let you go, I asked this to most of our guest hosts. Do you know why we call ourselves the evil safety dudes?
Because people consider us to be evil. Because we're always telling them, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, Yeah.
It's amazing
I'm assuming. Is that right?
Yeah. 100% right. It's amazing how fast another safety professional understands it, It's not that we're safety cops and we're running around, I got you, and, we're jerks on a power trip. We consider ourselves coaches.
Yeah.
We develop trust and rapport, and we help people. And a lot of times when we could fire them, we still work with them,
Oh, yeah.
We try to be really good humans when we're out there, but it doesn't matter. Just like you said, their view of us is that we're bad when all we're doing is trying to make sure they're not dead.
Make sure they don't die. That'd be great.
And they totally hate us for
I would rather irritate somebody, like walking around the plant, than having to go explain something to their family at the emergency room anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I would much rather them think that I'm just some evil safety jerk who made him follow some rules, but then I know for sure that guy went home safe.
It's kind of a tough job, though. There's not a lot of thanks. There's not a lot of understanding.
Yeah, but when you say it that way, you're implying there's some thanks.
Sometimes, maybe not too often.
Every day that you go home, or every month, because I do a monthly report, and I can or there were no incidents is like good, even if I have to pat myself on the back and nobody really realizes it. But that's a really good day.
That's a good way to point it out, actually. Yeah.
You gotta do that for yourself, because the CEO's not, hey Julie, no one died last month, great work,
right?
Keep up the good work. It's kind of thankless, and everybody gives you a hard time, and then there's the whole traditional scapegoat thing in the safety world, where if someone does get hurt, it's your fault.
Yeah, it was our fault.
You're not doing your job right, because someone got hurt, and we could have done everything we're supposed to and gone above and beyond, but it still falls on us a lot of times. So
right.
But, we super thank you for coming on our show. We really enjoyed having you. Breath of fresh air, super knowledgeable. And, yeah, man, this hour flew by for me.
It did.
Yeah, I really
did. It did. Thank you for asking me. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for coming, Julie. That was awesome.
So,
thank you.
So, for Mr. AJ Hanscom, I'm Aaron Iacino. Together we are the Evil Safety Dudes. Until next time, everybody, stay safe.